Guys, what is going on? RedMaster here, and welcome back to the episode of Cards and Castles, bringing you guys today yet another 3,000 star deck for the December 2018 season. Now, I know I still have to get the Last Will Druids out there, the deck that I actually ranked at the beginning of this month. I have to properly showcase that one. But something that I decided to do over the past few days, I only had that one deck ranked, and going through some of the ideas that I had, I play tested a few decks here and there on the ranked and see where they stood. And this one actually got pretty far, getting up to 3,014 as of now. And it was only really made with the intention of just kind of theory crafting from another user who kind of put the idea out there. I decided to kind of just build the deck, see where it went, and it surprisingly worked very, very well. Going, I believe, if I remember correctly, 9-1 in placements, followed by an additional 2 wins afterwards. So a total right now of 11-1 in the in ranked competition. So not too bad, I would say. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get right to the deck list for Kaiju's Will. Alright, so here is the Kaiju's Will deck list. Now, I already did post this over on Discord in the deck showcase, so for those of you who are members of Discord, you would have already seen the list, and a brief explanation of kind of what the deck is about. But for those of you who are not members, essentially this deck kind of works, or at least the combo of this deck is the synergy between King Kaiju and General. Of course, Kaiju's last will is to summon a Kaijir, which, if I can just pull him up right now, is a 2/5 monster. So to have that kind of spawn from Arcanon and just have them rush onto face is like my it's sort of like the fun combo of the deck, if you will. Because I mean, Kaijirs, in my opinion, are basically like mini barbarians. They have the same health as barbarian, but the attack is kind of cut in half, so they're not really like as scary as barbarians. But still, 5 health is nothing to kind of just laugh at, in my opinion. And of course, backing that, we do have a couple of stat buffs in here. You can see the armories and blacksmiths, so they can potentially get even more powerful down the road. But in addition to this kind of combination of Kaiju in general, not only are we running a lot of Last Will support, things like Andrew, Banshee, Lumberjack, Vicious Sunflower, all that good stuff. I also decided to throw in a little bit of Multi-Strike into the deck. That's been a popular ninja choice going around lately. Very devastating, very powerful. So decided to kind of throw that in here like a secondary win condition. You're going to want to try and go for, of course, like the Last Will shenanigans with like Andrew growing and then like Kaiju spawning. But if you need, the multi-strike is in here, and there's a lot of good cards that kind of bounce off of that. We see Grendel, Dancing Swords, hell, even Kaiju himself, or Swordsman. That's why I do have a little bit of Swordsman action in here, not only because of the multi-strike, but a little lunging attack too to kind of support that. So yeah, I would say multi-strike and Kaiju shenanigans are kind of like the core theme of the deck. But what else are we kind of running to support this? I mean, we do have Last Will stuff, obviously. You can see, like I mentioned, the Banshee, the Sunflower, the Salahar Rider. But, like, what else did I decide to kind of put together in this deck? Well, we'll start with the things that I mentioned already, that being the Swordsman. I did throw him in here as sort of my little gap filler between General and Kaiju. I actually had people telling me to run Ranger instead, if you want the more beefier body, or if I'm worried about swarm decks, and carry the Dragon's Fire. But I do want to point out that I do like the combination of Swordsman lunging attack, because directly from spawn, that could be a nuisance, especially when you have, 2 units kind of lined up right in front of the enemy castle. A lunging swordsman can potentially take both of those things out, because it can reach that that first target, the one that's out more, and then of course cleave the other target behind it. So a lunging swordsman does a little bit of nice cleanup work that I like to have in this deck. So that's why I include the swordsman. But obviously the ranger is another strong option. I wouldn't doubt the ranger being thrown in here as well. On top of that, the Icon, another card I want to quickly talk about, just in terms of like what you can replace in this deck if you don't have it. Icon really does a nice job with removing some stronger things, meanwhile keeping your things alive. Obviously, the 4 attack and the first strike are nice, but what did happen recently was an alpha strike change, which gives a unit +2 attack and first strike. This card works just as well as Icon, really. I do like Icon a bit more because of the, increase to attack that it gives. It gives an additional 2 over alpha strike, which I find useful if I'm forced to use one of my smaller creatures to kind of trade. So obviously, if you don't have Icon, I would say Alpha Strike is a great replacement there. But let's see. What else are we running in the deck? Probably something you might notice is the Hassan City guards that are in here. They were, of course, recently heavily nerfed. This deck was constructed pre-patch, so I threw the guards in here with the assumption of, like, oh yeah, they'll be fine. They're kind of in every deck, so I wouldn't see why not to include in this one. I mentioned over on the Discord as well, guards were a minor detail that I kind of just forgot to swap out while ranking this deck. I kind of realized halfway through that, like, oh, I still have guards in my deck. So I ended up keeping them, and they worked, moderately okay. I wouldn't say that they were, like, the stars or the MVPs of the deck. They do have their flaws, obviously, with the decrease in attack. They are just smaller bodies, and they can't really help defend all that well against things like Miner and Questing Knight, which a lot of people are running now. So guards, honestly, could be a choice that you can swap out. I recommend, if you are looking for a replacement for guards, look maybe towards the Miner or Questing Knight. That's what I kind of recommend to people right now. If you have a more specialized choice, hell, I actually maybe recommend Masuta in this deck as well, because of the cost reduction he gives to the next unit. You can get things out early like a Dancing Swords or a Darkbender, or maybe even a General or Kaiju later on down in the game. So something I maybe want to try myself. Maybe Masuta in here, because he does have 3 attack as well, so we can trade with things like Miner and Questing Knight. So I might have to try that out later, now that I kind of just spoke out loud about it. But overall, I think the guards did work a little bit for some offering fodder. Just having that extra body out there that I'm not really utilizing all that well, I can just offer it and get some, more cards out of it for later. So little pros and cons here with the Hassan City guards. But other than that, things are looking pretty standard for the rest of the deck. Flame Cannon, Blue Firebolt, Blacksmith, Armory, things that you guys already know. Is there anything else probably that I shouldn't have gone over? Grendel maybe. Sorry, just gotta. Grendel, I know people were kind of, when I first made the deck, they were asking, is Grendel an okay choice, especially with the Arcanon General in the deck. You don't want to proc the buff multiple times. You do have a point there. I do keep Grendel, though, for the just sole purpose that it is a tanky and, last will unit. So regardless, if I'm proccing the buff, it's going, Andrew still might get more powerful, and Grendel overall is just a solid body, so... I personally don't like running him a lot. People who know me know this. I don't really like giving my opponents any sort of tools that they can use against me. From the smallest things like these Grendel buffs to draws, that's just not my play style. But I kind of figured I need the body in here, and the last will might help me in the long run with Andrew. So I stuck 2 in there, and he's worked out pretty well so far. And then Darkbender is another change that I'm kind of just currently trying out really in this deck. I like Darkbender so far. I'm not going to lie, he has been a bit useful lately, so he was a substitute for the Flux, with Flux being heavily nerfed to a 1-3. He did not, she didn't really fit well in this deck at all, so I tried kind of looking around. I mean, in the 4 gold spot, you do have things like Barbarian. I was already running Dancing Swords at the time, but I was like, you know what, I'm going to try the Darkbender and see how he would work out. And again, like I said, he worked out pretty well. Considering some of the other choices in this 4 gold slot. So the stat increase that he recently got definitely helps him provide more of that threat onto the board. But enough about the deck. I think I pretty much covered it a little bit longer than I normally do, because this is, there's a lot of stuff to unpack in the deck, especially with some of the patch notes that have happened recently. I wanted to kind of get out there some information regarding some of the choices and some of the replacements that you can make. But with that being said, let's go ahead and jump right into a game that I recently played with this deck and show you how things turned out. Alright, so some of you might have already actually seen this matchup, but it was me going up against Havoc Wrecker. I hopefully pronounced that right. Apologies if I didn't. He was currently number 11th in the world. I don't think this was the deck that he was running, though, at the number 11th spot. But regardless, let's see how things turned out for me as I hit the play button, as I try to find the play button. He was running a Dragons deck, so something that I've been seeing more of lately, surprisingly. Dragons, especially in the purple-blue variant. And by his hand, he was going for a Wotan play there. Or at least, the deck aim more around Wotan, I believe. So he starts off the game with a Miner, the first card that either of us can kind of pull out. I have to throw a Banshee out at him. I wasn't really looking good at the beginning of this game, I think, in my hand. So Banshee just to kind of clear off some board presence, and he threw out the Ice Drake, which he got from Dragon Search. At this point, again, Blue Firebolt, I'm kind of keeping the board clear of any distractions. Early game, again, a Last Will deck sometimes doesn't really do well with early pressure, so I tried to keep a lot of things off my face as I could. So the Blue Fire, the Banshee, all necessary sacrifices kind of keep my board a little healthy in the beginning rounds here. He throws out a Faithful Drake in response. At this point, I think he was looking, well, in my thought, going through my head, alright, Faithful Drake, not really a big play here, so I can throw out a Dark Bender now. So that Dark Bender, what that's going to do for the game going forward, is I thought, alright, I could put some pressure on with this, hopefully get him off my face a little bit more. I can make him hesitant to move up, but he goes ahead and throws out a Green Drake, buffed by the Faithful Drake presence, of course, so Darkbender having a little bit of tough time here. All I could really do is a Blacksmith and a Salahar Router just to block. I did set him up for some good Lightning Blade stuff here, but it turns out he didn't really have it. So he goes for the Wotan play on the, of course, weaker Drake. It does get rid of his Green Drake buff, though, I believe. I mean, it looked like it, so I think that's what happened. I guess not. I don't know, his attack went down, but still. And of course, I'm just kind of moving my Darkbender away because I didn't know where the Wotan was. The Andrew, I will admit, was probably a rough play on my part. I was trying to push it, hoping for, like, you know, oh, I can catch the Wotan, and then with the Andrew being at a 5/7, I could outlive Wotan's first strike and kill that off, killing off the biggest threat on the board. Unfortunately, I didn't get him, and of course, he's going to go ahead and weaken my Green Drake here. Although he opts to multi-strike here, which I think is a decent play. He definitely kills off the Giant, and while he's at it, takes out the Darkbender. Now, in my hand, I was thinking that that trap was an Aijitsu or something along the line. I didn't think it was a Secret Dragon, so honestly, I was kind of nervous at this point, because I didn't really have anything in my hand to really take out that Wotan. You can see, he's kind of pushing face here. Wotan does not want to let me live. So all I can really do is throw out a Dancing Sword at this point and hope for the best. I was thinking, you know, maybe I can kind of kill off whatever he sends out next. He obviously pushes out a Green Drake forward. And, of course, with the Dragon Temple, he takes away 6 off my castle. So, a little concerning here towards the middle stages. I thought the Kaiju, though. Now, something about Kaiju that I don't know, or I don't think a lot of people understand, is that the recent buff made him a much scarier boy. At 5/7, I agree that he didn't really, you know, his purpose was really like just, slow, stealth, not a strong last will. So I kind of get people just kind of overlooked the Kaiju, but now, thanks to the recent buff at the 7/7, I think Kaiju became a much scarier presence on the board. You can see an 8/7 with stealth. I mean, sure, he still has a slow, but still, something that I just think people kind of overlook nowadays. But anyway, continuing on the match, I trigger the Secret Dragon onto the Dancing, or no, trigger Secret Dragon onto Green Drake, thinking it was the Aijitsu, so I didn't expect to get this trade, excuse me, at all, but it worked out very well. He apparently Secret Dragoned right into another Green Drake, so the extra buffs onto swords was able to kill the Drake without any problem. He goes ahead and plays a Dragon Siege, which I find interesting. Dragon Siege I've been seeing a little more of in the blue-purple variants of dragons. You know, personally, I think it's an iffy card to kind of put a lot of gold into just a simple buff to units. I mean, sure, it's a pretty hefty one at 2/3, but you know, I'm not a dragon player myself, so I would think face is maybe better. Because you could potentially have much more stats on one unit like a Wotan, rather than just a 2/3 split amongst 2 units. But regardless, we'll continue on with the match. It procs on Faithful and the Wotans. Now Wotan's taking a big chunk out of my castle with that. But another thing I like about Kaiju, I'm able to play an Armory and the minor upgrade that sorry, I don't know. Minor Upgrade was in a different game. I would play double Armory here, which allowed my Kaiju to survive and take out this Wotan without any problem at all. Some of the extra Lumberjack because I could, and 4/3 definitely I'm trying to force some trades out of him. The Dragon Knight was one, but he ends up opting just the Faithful Drake to eliminate. Not going to waste any time with that, and follows up with the Stone Drake, which I admit the fast is pretty scary on him, so at this point, I'm feeling a bit more confident now in the matchup. I'm take the opportunity to multi-strike my Banshee here. It's going to take out that Faithful Drake and Dragon Knight, meanwhile giving me that extra spell, which is Ambush. I played the Sunflower to kind of block my face here, and played that same Ambush to position my Kaijir in a more offensive way, hoping to maybe draw a lunging attack the next turn and do some massive damage to his face. He ends up playing another Stone Drake and the Dragon Temple. I believe that play right there, you saw his Stone Drake was awkwardly moving down. He might have been trying to catch, either he was trying to catch the Kaijir, or Kaiju, excuse me, or just position himself in a more like, I can just zip right up here and kill your face if you can't really take me out. So at this point, Kaijir is going to trade with the Stone Drake right here, produce a 5/7 Kaijir right on face, drop him off. I sack the Blacksmith to be able to use a blue Firebolt to take it out, push the Sunflower forward, and summon another one to boot after using Gift of the Shepherd, I believe. Yeah, I used Gift first and then push the Sunflower. You know, it doesn't really matter in particular order, I guess, but, you know. So at this point, he ran out of cards, trying to block the Dwarven Miner. The game pretty much, you know, ends around this point. You can see the lunging attack going on the Sunflower. It zips across, takes out the Miner, and deposits both Sunflowers on face for about 6 damage, and the Kaiju continuing to chip away. 4/7, not an easy target to remove. You saw why the Dwarven Miner couldn't really do much against the Kaiju, because no matter what he kind of threw at it, I think Kaiju would have regardless kind of survived, unless it was like a expensive unit, like maybe another Stone Drake at that point, but he clearly didn't have the resources. So Faithful Drake, Lightning Blade going to be the play here that he makes. He takes out the Kaijir, kills off the Sunflower. One flower explodes, gets 3 damage, but Sun Death with the flower, or at least one still on face, going to take the 3 away to end the game. So overall, I know this match didn't really showcase the Arcanon Kaiju combo, but we did see why Kaiju is effective. The big body helps take care of big threats and whatnot. So overall, I would say pretty successful match, and I do plan to do more matches with this deck, hopefully over on some Twitch streams, so you can definitely check the link below if you want to stay notified for that. Alright, and with that being said, guys, that's going to do it for me for the Kaiju's Will deck. If you guys enjoyed, be sure to leave a like on the video, share with your friends, and comment down below your thoughts on this deck. I really enjoyed playing and making this deck. A big thank you to Tyrannus, who actually gave me the concept, helped me kind of, well, I really theory crafted it, but he kind of proposed the idea out there. He kind of just like, oh, hey, what if you do, you know, X and Y? So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to try that. And lo and behold, surprised by the results, and I really had a fun time making this deck. So if you do have the resource, I definitely recommend giving this deck a try. Definitely works well in the scene that is, you know, the ninja pirates, you know, going around right now. You got ninja decks, you got greedy pirate decks. So I definitely think it's a fun deck that kind of works in this environment. So yeah, so with that being said, guys, I'm going to do it for me for now. So until next time, guys, stay gaming. Oh, and subscribe as well. I forgot to mention that. Hit that subscribe button. Do it. Do it now.